This is the new era. This is the new band, and we're unbreakable.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. We can make him better than he was. Better, stronger, faster. Actually, better, stronger,
faster. Is that a
faster.
line from Starship Troopers or something?
No, it's actually the $1 Million Man.
$6 Million Man. I know that, and
I don't even know what that is.
We Brits don't do excitement, so this is the best you're gonna get.
Chris is bringing the noise today, apparently.
Speaking of vanilla,
it's just I don't understand why.
I don't think anyone does. I don't think Travis Green understands.
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust. This is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com and CKNW.com. Here they are, fresh from folding towels, sharpening skates, and washing jock straps. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Matt Lee with you here in studio. You can find me on Twitter at MattLee61. You can find my co-host Anna Forsyth on Twitter at AForsyth03. Not in action, Chris Golden at Lightforce. Adam Ovenel Carter at AdamFOC on Twitter will be joining us later on in the show as well. And we got an Off the Rails episode coming for our patrons as well. We'll preview that one a little bit later in the show. But Anna, how are you?
I'm doing okay, thanks. Enjoying this sunny weather.
I got one question for you.
Oh, yeah?
So you went to a cat's birthday over the weekend.
I wondered when this would come up. Turns out
it took 10
away.
seconds.
Yeah, I did.
How do you sleep at night?
Honestly, I think it's the most Vancouver thing I've ever done, maybe.
I don't understand what makes it Vancouver.
It's just kind of hipster and she.
Was she a hipster? I'm assuming, was it a woman, first of all, that was throwing the party?
Yeah.
So, is she a hipster?
Not really. I think she's just a bit cutesy.
How old is the cat?
Well, there were two cats. They're brothers, and they're both 2.
So it was 2. Are the cats named Henrik and Daniel, by any chance?
Unfortunately, they're not.
No.
That would be...
That's disappointing.
I know.
I would have supported said cat birthday if the cats' names were Henrik and Daniel.
Yeah.
Did you buy gifts for the cats?
I did.
You actually bought gifts for the cat.
I didn't wrap them.
We are in the middle of an affordability crisis, and you're out here spending, like, we talk about avocado toast and stuff, and yet here you are buying birthday gifts for cats.
I bought them a packet of treats each, the same one, obviously, so that there was no fighting. But, yeah. I mean, honestly, it's just an excuse for people to get together, have a few drinks, have a barbecue, and, yeah. We played with
What did the cats eat for the barbecue?
They had
Fish?
they had their food afterwards. I think they were a bit put off by the noise.
Did they get a cake?
They didn't.
What?
But
I'm actually surprised.
There were cat cakes, though, but not for the cats. They were like cat cupcakes.
You ate cat food cakes?
No, they were in the shape of cats.
That's disgusting, Anna.
No, it wasn't cat food cake.
Look, we're here in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, and you're out here eating cat food cakes.
Anyway, it was fun.
First time and never again after that?
Yeah, probably.
You will never go to another cat birthday?
I doubt I'll be invited to another cat birthday, but yeah, that was fun, but it was mainly just...
Did the cats wear birthday hats?
No, but we made them birthday bow ties, as you might have seen in the photo. And it looks like they're miserable, but they're really not. They just have...
How many people came to this event?
I don't know. There was it went on for hours, so there was probably 10 people that came and went.
You know, I've been, we say this a lot, and I think it'll be a thing as we continue on the podcast, but I always think to myself, what would Botchford do, or what would Botchford say?
Oh, he would be appalled. So, yeah.
This is the same guy who talked about going to his kids' dance recitals when he was a few years back. And I feel like he would have freaked out about a cat's birthday.
Yeah, I just hope that Botch wasn't looking down on B at that particular instant.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. Game 1, again, like we mentioned, of the Stanley Cup Final. We'll get into the Boston Bruins and St. Louis Blues series, which got underway this evening as well. We talked a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about the Vancouver Canucks, what's going on with them. Troy Stecher back from the World Championships as well. Of course, the draft, less than a month from now. We've got Cam Robinson lined up about a week or so from now. That'll happen. We'll get into some prospects chatter when Adam joins us here later in the podcast. All of that coming up next on the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. So, Anna, Stanley Cup Final got underway today, and
Yep.
I was scrolling through my Instagram feed on Sunday night, the eve before Game 1, and I follow a lot of the Canucks on
Sure.
Instagram, as a lot of us do, and I remember that I still follow Michael Del Zotto.
Yeah, I realized I still follow him on Twitter the other day. I remedied it very quickly, but...
So, the St. Louis Blues and the Boston Bruins, I believe, both had their pre-Stanley Cup Final media availability at TD Garden yesterday or Sunday afternoon. And Michael Del Zotto was one of the people that was interviewed. I believe it was, I can't remember who else. It was him and another defenseman who's been quite a healthy scratch lately. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is it occurred to me that Michael Del Zotto might get a Stanley Cup ring
I know.
in 2 weeks' time. Well, not in 2 weeks, but he could be getting a Stanley Cup ring in 2 weeks' time.
I mean, that just fact alone kind of shows you there's no justice in hockey.
I'll say this. We can criticize Michael Del Zotto as we did throughout all of this season and even going back to last season. He's a great locker room guy. And I think he had a lot of respect of his teammates. And we can say whatever we want about his play, but as a person, he's not the worst guy I would see winning a Stanley Cup.
No, and that sounds a lot better than Brad Marchand winning another one.
Sure.
So, but it's just madness to think about it. Seeing this team, this guy that the Canucks, basement-dwelling Canucks, couldn't wait to get rid of. And we thought, well, he's no good for our team. He's not good enough for us. And he could be winning a Stanley Cup in a couple weeks' time. It's madness, but I guess that's the thrill of the sport.
So, to be fair, I think if the Blues were to win the Cup, if I'm correct, he doesn't have the amount of games played that you would need to get your name engraved on the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, what's the rules?
I think it's something along the lines of you have to play a certain amount of playoff games or one game in the Stanley Cup Final. And I can't remember what the other equivalent was, but I'll look it up as I stall for time. But again, if you had paid me good money at the start of the season and bet that Michael Del Zotto would be competing in the Stanley Cup Final, I would have told you you're crazy.
Yeah, I kind of would have predicted he had a platinum selling, whatever the kids call the latest EDM drops. Can you have a platinum selling thing anymore?
I'm honestly, I'm not very, very good with that.
But
kind of
honestly,
thing.
I would think that is more likely than a Stanley Cup. I would have thought of that at the beginning of the season, but
right. I have it here. What it takes to get your name engraved on the Stanley Cup. It takes at least 41 games played with the club during the regular season, I'm assuming. So no.
No.
Or one game played in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Just one? How is that equivalent to 41? Anyway.
Yep.
Did I mention this is...
And that person obviously must be on the roster when the team wins the Stanley Cup.
Can I go OTR quickly? Did I mention that there is a new woman that started at my work a couple weeks ago? And her dad has his name on the Stanley Cup. He won it with the Calgary Flames, and it was a captain of the Calgary Flames. Not sure if it was at the time, but was once a captain of the Calgary Flames. How cool is that?
Lanny McDonald?
No, not quite as household as that, but I forget his first name, but it's Poplinski. It's her last name.
Jim Poplinski.
Yeah, that's her dad.
Famed enforcer, Jim Poplinski, as well.
Yeah.
He was also
a tough guy for sure.
Once a former co-host of the popular Don Cherry Rock'em Sock'em video series.
Oh, was he? That's funny. I
don't know
that.
why I know that, but
yeah,
I remember watching
is
those. Some of you trivia experts might remember that one, though.
Very nice lady, despite being from Calgary.
He must be getting up there now. He must be in his mid-60s.
I mean, she's in her 30s. And
yeah, so that sounds about right. Anyway, very cool.
And she also has an adorable dog, which she brought in today. So
was the dog having a birthday as well,
no.
Anna?
But he accidentally ate some ice cream and, did
not
end
that's
well.
not good. Getting back to the Stanley Cup Final.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're
of course,
about.
it's a 7-game series. On the surface, and this has been a very, I don't want to say a hot topic, but a debate in Vancouver circles. But who would you want to see win the Stanley Cup of these two teams?
I am very reluctantly setting up my stall for the St. Louis Blues. Very reluctantly.
So you don't want the St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup?
No, I do.
Oh, I see.
I'm mad at myself for doing it.
And why is that?
One, I've said this before, I don't enjoy the way they play hockey. Like,
You might say that they're the Brock Bessers of teams? The
Brock
personality speaking?
Personality-wise, they are a very vanilla hockey team, like, compared to the teams that we saw earlier on in the playoffs. Vegas, Sharks, Colorado, but, you know, they're effective, so can't hate them. And then there's two, Jordan Binnington, who just annoys me, because...
Why does Jordan Binnington annoy you?
Because people are trying to give him the Calder, and that's Petey's trophy.
Well, you know what? We're about maybe 5 or 6 games away from him getting the Conn Smythe trophy as well.
No. Well, he can have that. We can't. Petey can't win
So here's the thing. I don't like the Boston Bruins either, and I think I would also prefer to see the St. Louis Blues. That was kind of a Freudian slip, if you will. I would prefer as well to see the St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup as well. However, just to play devil's advocate, I think there's something to be said about a team that was part of the post-expansion era, 1967 is when the Blues came in, that has also not won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I don't like our sad club getting smaller.
Exactly. It's the Vancouver Canucks, it's the Buffalo Sabres, and there's not many more teams that have not won a Stanley Cup since 1970. Like, there's the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, who haven't won in God knows how long, and the St. Louis Blues are one of the other teams, and...
But will it just be us and Buffalo that haven't won ever?
Since 1970, let me think about this. The Blues have not won. The Flyers, of course, have. The Pittsburgh Penguins, of course, have. Dallas has. Minnesota North Stars, if you want to count them.
No, but that doesn't count, because otherwise we're counting the Millionaires.
Right. I mean, well, the North Stars or the Wild sort of franchises, if you will.
No, because the North Stars are the Stars. Dallas.
Sure, yeah, exactly. And, like, the Nashville Predators and those kind of teams, they haven't been around long enough as well. Winnipeg Jets are right up there, too, but they haven't been around as long as the Canucks either.
Yeah.
So, there's a very small list of teams who have been crappier historically than the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, over the years that we've been
And
around.
so, part of me, just like a small part of me, does not want to see the St. Louis Blues win as a result.
Yeah, I agree. And as I explained, there are reasons why I really don't want to see them win, but I hate Boston and I hate Brad Marchand way more than I don't want to see the St. Louis winning.
We had this come in the mail, I think sometime over the weekend as well, and this came from friend of the show, Anders Lee.
Emailed, to be clear. We
Right.
haven't got, snail mail set up.
Right, not in a while. Which, by the way, I would like the Vacchio jersey back anytime you can give us that.
Yeah, if you guys want to take your turn with it, you're welcome to do that.
Anyway, I'll get to the email first. Anders Lee reaching out via email. Hi, folks. Wanted to reach out, say thanks for the great content so far. It's helped fight the doldrums of the playoffs for us Canuck fans watching from the sideline. I didn't want to ask the question in the Discord chat, as I'd love to hear Matt and Adam squirm on air. Sorry that Adam's not here for this, Anders.
Matt has other ways of making him squirm.
Hey. While the hockey gods are busy meddling with referees, the hockey devil has noticed that noted Canucks nemesis Brad Marchand, yet again on the precipice of winning another Stanley Cup, they proceed to make you an offer. They will ensure that Brad Marchand and the Bruins do not win a cup this year or next. The trade-off? Both Jordan Binnington and Jack Hughes lead their respective teams to cup wins this year and the next, earning guaranteed Conn Smythe and Calder trophies. And of course, let's mention this with the fact that Binnington's performance doesn't guarantee him the Calder trophy. But would you rather see Brad Marchand and the Bruins not win the Stanley Cup this year or next in exchange for both Jordan Binnington and whichever team Jack Hughes plays on, both winning the Stanley Cup next season?
So if I say no to that deal, does that mean the Bruins definitely win the next two? Or
I think it means they win at least one in the next 2 years, like this year or next year.
it's hard.
This is a very bad hypothetical question.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a very good one because I'm
I
stewing.
know, but it is making me squirm.
Yeah, because 2 years isn't very long. Like if we agree to the deal, Bruins could win it that third year. And the Calder is the one that's kind of stopping me agreeing, because it's just so rare that there's league recognition of the Canucks doing something right. And I'm not saying, oh, we're hard done by. I'm just saying we don't have much to celebrate. And PD is that bright spot on the horizon. And I don't know if I could give up the Calder. I don't care about Conn Smythe, obviously, because
we're not getting close to that anytime soon.
And I don't care if the Blues win and the
Would
Devils...
you care if the Devils win the Stanley Cup?
No, not at all. I was rooting for them against the Kings. Hard.
Yeah.
Back in that very one-sided Stanley Cup
2014, final. Yes, I remember.
No, that was 2012.
Oh, yeah, the 2014 was against the Rangers. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
If you had to choose.
So, yeah, because the Calder is the only thing making me pause here. But I probably agree to it.
I think I would rather see the Bruins win once in the next 2 years.
It's really
It's
tough.
sad that the Calder Trophy is that important to me as a Canucks fan, but like at this state of in the union, so to speak, they kind of need that publicity, if you will, of getting a Calder Trophy winner in their ranks.
Yeah, and it's just would be nice to see that like we picked right with Pedersen and we didn't ruin him, we didn't break him.
Yeah. So, thanks, Saunders, for that question. Again, anytime you want to reach out to us via email, do you remember, is it c4@canuckshockeyblog.com?
I am 90% sure. This is what happens when Chris isn't here.
Chris is... Never mind. Anyway,
but I am
email us.
sure.
You can find us on Discord, again, as always. Getting back to the Stanley Cup Finals, Anna, I think none of us really predicted a Blues versus Bruins Stanley Cup Final.
No.
You know, the sexy pick at the time was the Tampa Bay Lightning somewhere in there. Maybe some people had the Nashville Predators making it deep. Some teams thought Pittsburgh Penguins were due to get back in. San Jose was a good pick as well. I mean, Calgary Flames, no one saw getting bounced in the first round, that's for sure.
No, but that was delightful.
But does this add fuel to that fire when people say all you need is to get into the playoffs to have a legitimate shot of making it to the Stanley Cup Finals? I mean, the narrative is that the St. Louis Blues were dead last in the NHL at the beginning of January, and yet here they are looking like a very dominant Stanley Cup contender. Like there were people talking about Vladimir Tarasenko getting traded and Ryan O'Reilly getting moved out and Alex Pietrangelo getting moved out. And yet here are the Blues just quietly going about their business being the Stanley Cup Final. Is there anything to be said about teams just needing a shot? Like, for the Vancouver Canucks perspective, do they just need to get to the playoffs?
I mean, of course it's true, but I do... That is another thing that I worry about, that it adds to that narrative. Because even... Sure, they were doing very badly in the regular season before they went on their run. But look at that roster. They were underperforming for the talent level they had on that roster. Like, I don't think... we look at the Canucks and see where they finished and say that they deserve better. Like, they finished right about where they should be. So, I don't think you can just sneak in and hope for the best. We don't have that depth to keep competing. Also, it so happens that the Blues play the style of hockey that is kind of brutally effective, and the Canucks don't play that way.
I think the Blues definitely... I mean, you raise a good point about the word depth, and I think the Blues have that in spades, and the Vancouver Canucks just don't have it. And for the Blues, it was about that depth coming together at the right time, I think, and that's what we're sort of seeing from them over the last 2 months of really great hockey that they've been playing. Yeah.
I mean, they were dead last, right? That's the idea, right? That team should never have been dead last. Mm-hmm. Not saying they're the best in the NHL, they're clearly not, but they are much deeper, much more balanced a team. Like, we barely have two lines to put together.
Right. Another takeaway that I've sort of found that can be applied to a Canucks perspective is, you know, we talk about the future of goaltending in Vancouver, Thatcher Demko, Jacob Markstrom, hitch your wagons to one of them. And yet here we are in the Stanley Cup Final, Anna, and you have the Boston Bruins, you have the St. Louis Blues, two teams that didn't necessarily have a clear 1 and 2 goaltending situation. You had Tuukka Rask. He was supported by Jarro Halak. In St. Louis, it was Jordan Binnington taking over halfway for Jake Allen. This is a situation where these teams didn't ride their starting goaltender for, let's say, 60-plus games in the regular season to allow them to, quote, stay in, like, the groove. And yet, maybe there's something to be said about riding a, quote, 1A, 1B situation.
Yeah, I think they're both different situations, though. I mean, Binnington kind of reminds me more of a Pittsburgh situation where Murray got hot and he just rode that form through the playoffs. Because, I'm not going to lie, I think Jake Allen is a pretty poor goaltender. So, if there's any moment where Binnington's form collapses, which I don't see it doing over the next couple weeks here, but I don't see them having that backup option. But looking at Boston, that's slightly more interesting, I think, that they have preserved Tuukka Rask in a way like, obviously hate to bring up, but Luongo was exhausted by the time we got to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, he had carried the whole team.
And yet, if you ask Roberto Luongo, he would say he didn't play too many games and stuff like that. But
No,
it's not.
but
It's not a goalie thing. It's about
anything else?
managing yourself for a longer run.
Yeah, and if it shakes out that way, but the thing is, I'm just worried that we don't have a Stanley Cup playoff run in us in the time we'll have Markstrom play at this level. Because I think he has 1, maybe 2 years playing this as well as he has been doing. And do we have a playoff run in that time? Like, I think we make the playoffs in 2 years' time. But
So, in other words, for the people who say, like, in maybe 1 or 2 years, you trade a Jacob Markstrom or you trade Thatcher Demko for upgrades elsewhere, you wouldn't do that if you see what's been highlighted in the Stanley Cup Final with the Blues and the Bruins?
no, I think it's an interesting idea, but
It makes me pause, though. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily Markstrom and Demko are those two goaltenders.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I think Demko has a while to go.
Right. I mean, totally, Markstrom and Demko are not along the lines of Rask and Binnington and Halak and Allen and all that. Like, there are definitely more questions surrounding those two than there are for the other goaltenders that are in the Stanley Cup Final.
But in terms of, like, in theory, I think is really interesting. And maybe Demko DiPietro down the road.
Yep. Could be a 1A, 1B situation. I mean, it's not changing how I feel about it. Like, I think there is a path where the Canucks could trade one of those goaltenders to upgrade up front or on the blue line. But when you see it, it's kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul or robbing Paul to pay Peter. You know the phrase I'm talking about.
I think you actually had it right first time for once.
Yeah. I do get that every once in a while.
Yeah, once in a blue moon. I think, honestly, we talked about this before, about Markstrom maybe being an ideal final piece to a Stanley Cup contender next year. So if he continues to play the way he does, maybe he's someone to shop at the deadline. But right now, they're not necessarily in any position.
Yeah, Sean at Bearded Canuck 03 on our Discord. And by the way, co-host of the A or D, the podcast, the Agree or Disagree podcast. Shout out to those guys. Mentioning the days of goaltenders playing 60-plus games en route to a deep playoff run are over. I think that's definitely something that teams in the future are going to be looking at mitigating down the road. Even going back to just last season, you think about it, though, Braden Holtby played a ton of games for the Washington Capitals en route to their Stanley Cup run. And it's just, again, teams are always, it's a copycat league. Yeah. Teams follow what has worked for teams. This year, it was a 1A, 1B situation working out very favorably for the Bruins and the Blues. Last year, there was Braden Holtby running the goaltending almost start to finish. Although you did see, I think it was Philip Grubauer at the time, spelling him off every now and then. And remember, Grubauer started a couple games for Washington in the playoffs as well. So maybe even there's something to that as well. But I mean, I definitely think that there is something to be said about goaltenders no longer playing 60-plus games.
Yeah, I think it's getting a faster, more skilled league, and so it's going to get more exhausting for goaltenders to play those heavier workloads. And yeah, it's going to take a different setup to win the cup. As the game changes. So, I mean, look back at 2011. I know I brought it up twice, which makes me cringe a little bit, but you know, they talked about the toughness that Vancouver lacked, and I don't think you could see that in today's league, having a rock'em sock'em team kind of barge their way to a Stanley Cup Final. I know Boston had some skill as well, but I just think as we move on, we're just seeing lineups being more and more skilled, and yeah, the goaltenders will naturally have to adapt their game and adapt their strategy to that.
Last thing before we take a break, and I think Adam is about 2 or 3 minutes away from joining us on the podcast, so we'll take a break.
Can you sense him?
I feel him close to me. God, I mean, I've watched the Bruins quite a bit throughout these playoffs, and I mean, the old PTSD in me is seeing it again, but God, Patrice Bergeron is so damn good.
Yeah. He is.
Like,
he still is.
If there was a quote-unquote perfect hockey player, Patrice Bergeron would be very close to it. In terms of 200-foot game, face-offs, the ability to distribute the puck so well, a force on both the power play and the penalty kill. Like, Patrice Bergeron does it all for the Bruins.
Yeah.
He is so good.
And he's rarely their, if ever, their star player, but he's just pretty consistent throughout the years, unfortunately.
If Patrice Bergeron retired after these Stanley Cup Finals, win or lose, is he a Hockey Hall of Famer? He's got World Junior Gold. He's got World Championship Gold. I think he's got Olympic Gold, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there's a definite argument, right? Out of anyone on that team.
Yeah. I think it's pretty close. I think he would be as well.
But yeah, it's a marginal for sure. Maybe not first ballot anyway.
Anyway, Adam's just out the door. He's wearing his New England Patriots hat. Should we let him in?
Ugh, maybe he should take
Like, is that
a
precursor to what we should expect? He's wearing a New England Patriots hat. The Bruins are in the Stanley Cup Final. Why do you do this?
I know. It's cruel.
We will antagonize him right after this. C4 Podcast, CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya. Right off.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Matt Lee and Anna Forsyth. We were having a great time, and then Adam Ovenel Carter decided to show up.
Now we're having an even better time.
Thanks, Anna. How you doing, Matt? Long time no see.
What has it been, like a month?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is
I
that
forgot
the
your
longest
Japan
you've-
souvenir, by the way.
Oh,
I forgot to
thank
bring
you.
it. Sorry.
Wait,
I'll
other?
give it to you another time. Okay, first of all, why are you wearing the hat?
Well, I went kayaking with my students today.
You sure do a lot of outdoor stuff
What
with your
kind of
class.
school
Yeah,
do
pretty
you
fun.
go
You're like
to?
the best teacher ever, aren't
I know.
you?
Well, it's practice because in a week, 3 weeks, we are going kayaking across from Bowen to Gambier. So we got to make sure they know how to exit the kayak. Should they
Dude,
flip.
look, if I had kids and they were in your class, you were the last person I would trust to have them in a kayak
I'm an
with.
expert kayaker.
Is he?
Yeah,
I don't know, man. What's the distance between Bowen and Gambier?
I couldn't tell you.
Is it quite a bit?
No, they're all in House Sound. It's like a 2-3 hour crossing. It's not bad.
In one boat? In a kayak for 2 to 3
Yeah,
hours?
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
How old are these kids? Are they
That's
like
the whole thing. We gotta
fully
challenge
developed
these kids.
adults?
They're grade 9s.
I don't know, dude. That's something.
This is
15.
the most
You could've
like
done that at
hippie,
15.
dippy school ever.
Is this
I
a
mean,
private school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
And it's on Bowen.
I did just
so-
get back from my pirate ship trip.
Yeah, true.
Shout out to what do they call you in class?
Adam or Beard Guy I get a lot.
Beard guy.
Beard guy.
Yeah.
Sean at Bearded Canuck 03 is about to file a trademark lawsuit
know.
on you.
Oh, well.
They call you Adam. So shout out to the class. They listen to the show. Some of them.
Some of them do. Yeah. We got a new listener. Welcome, Lola. So.
Hey Lola.
I don't know. I
What's
don't know how comfortable I feel with you dropping kids' names and they're under 19. That's another lawsuit waiting
first
to happen.
name, man.
Doesn't matter. We got to be conservative here. We can't afford another lawsuit against the show.
Whoa.
We have never been sued. Don't worry. This is the disclaimer. We have never been sued. Okay, get back on the rails here.
Where were we? What'd I miss?
Okay, so first of all, I want to give you a chance because we talked about him a couple episodes ago, but obviously the passing of Jason Botchford a few weeks ago was very sad. We all got to share some great stories about Jason Botchford. Is there anything like for you that you really wanted to mention?
Yeah, I did want to say, I'm glad you brought it up. I want to say I thought you guys did a really nice job, really nice things to say. I never got to meet Botch, but he, and I think, Matt, you expressed my opinion on this. He was the voice of Canucks fans, I think, right? You know, anytime anything would happen, he'd be the first person you'd want to read. And the way he was able to interact with, like, the Pravies was such a brilliant thing in that it let everybody have a voice, whether they were new to Canucks Twitter, whether they were Canucks Twitter veterans. And he just loved having those conversations. Anna, you knew him better. You can probably touch on that more.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say I knew him well, but had many online conversations with him. And, yeah, he seemed to just take the pulse of Canucks Nation really well.
And I think he held people accountable, whether it was other reporters, Canucks management, in a way that other people don't. And I
even
think,
himself, honestly, he would,
absolutely.
be like, oh, I was wrong on that.
Absolutely. He'd call anybody out. He'd be the first to do it, but that was so appreciated, and nobody else really does that. And it's just, he was, like I said, the voice of Canucks fandom, I think, and spoke for the fans in ways that nobody else has or probably can. And so it's really, I mean, it's still one of those things where you just wish you could hear what he had to say.
Yeah, I guess it's just for the new guys up and coming to take up his mantle, and
I think
speak to power.
On that note, so many of the guys who he touched in a way, or people, I shouldn't say guys, people, they've been given a platform a lot because of him, because he let them, right? And those are the kind of people who are going to carry that mantle. So, you know, his legacy is far from over.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree on that.
Matt's just coming back.
Sorry, the physical layout of the podcast is I can't actually see as we record, so I was just checking on the levels, and I was noticing up there that they weren't registering as high for you when you were speaking, so I just wanted to double check, and I'm glad I did, because it was a little low, so Quality is important. Yes, I was listening to what you mentioned on Botchford, and I think we've all said quite a bit on his impact on the community, and like the Athletes of the Pravies, they were just nightly reading material for everybody, and so that legacy, I think, continues to get picked up by that next generation of Vancouver sports writers. So very good to see. Other things I wanted to also ask you about, Anna and I talked about it in the previous segment, but quickly, your thoughts on the Bruins and Blues Stanley Cup Final. Are you invested in it? Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, coming from a guy who's wearing a New England Patriots hat.
Yeah, whatever.
Boston.
Whatever.
Tom Brady voicing up. Like,
that was a pretty cool video.
I wish I could call up Tom Brady and have him voice up a hype video for me.
Yeah, that was a pretty good video. But I don't care about the Blues. They're hard to care for. And the Bruins, I mean, nothing more needs to be said there. So it's hard.
If you had to pick one, though.
Bruins.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your quick reasoning for why you like the Bruins?
I have
the
this
Blues?
thing where I don't want any other team that hasn't won a cup.
We just had that conversation.
To win a cup, right?
Nothing more needs to be said.
I know the Canucks will be the last team to win a cup. It's just going to happen.
So Buffalo Sabres will get there first.
Every team will get there first. I just know that's how it's going to go.
We were also trying to think of other teams that have not won the Stanley Cup before the Canucks. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs have also not won a cup before the Canucks.
Yep.
Or have, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
is that it?
In the time that we...
When were the Blues...
67.
It's okay, there you go.
Yeah, we couldn't think of other teams that, off the top of my head, that had not won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Like the Winnipeg Jets have been around a while, but not as long as 1970.
No.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's get into some actual Canucks stuff here. We talked about Troy Stetcher making it to the Canadian World Championship squad. He returns with a silver medal in hand. Very quickly, a thought on this experience for Troy Stetcher, who, again, defied the odds, if you will, to make it to the NHL, now representing Canada at the world stage.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, World Hockey Championships, I'm the first to dismiss them, but it's still an amazing opportunity for you to represent your country, and to win a silver medal is always great. Obviously, you always hope for gold. The one takeaway on the ice, I will say, is that he played so well with... Is it Shabbat? Is that who you say it? Thomas Shabbat. I thought they were such a great pairing. I am for a Hughes Stetcher pairing. At least trying it out.
That is
kind of mobile, quick defenseman. Why not?
I think friend of the show Cam Robinson mentioned that as well. Stetcher just looking naturally comfortable with Thomas Chabot, and he kind of said tongue in cheek, like if only the Canucks had a puck moving defenseman like that in their ranks as well. So it makes sense. Like free the Stetcher Hughes pairing already. Will Travis Green? I think that'll be like one of the first storylines that emerges going into next season. So great experience for Troy Stetcher. Elias Pettersson had a couple great moments where he dangled the entire roster of the opposition. He looked great as well. Did you like the stare down from Elias Pettersson? You saw that goal that he scored.
Yeah, that was fun.
I loved it. I love when he does stuff like that. Like when he shows a little attitude. That's my favorite Pettersson.
Yeah, and it's almost forcing the league and the old school guys who don't like that sort of attitude to just kind of lump it, right? I think it's great to see personality in hockey, and the more stuff like that happens,
what do you think
the
was
better.
said to him?
I have no idea.
Like somebody said something, and I don't remember which team it was that they were playing now.
Latvia.
It was Latvia. So nobody from Latvia, probably that jerk Ronalds Kennens. Am I right?
Yeah.
Did he play for Latvia?
Yeah,
he was there.
He did.
The Latvian locomotive, okay?
Ronnie Hockey.
Yeah, he was the original Pettersson before there was Pettersson in Vancouver.
What?
Remember, he was a thing for a hot minute in Vancouver.
He was.
We had a lot of people, Nicholas Jensen, a lot of hot minutes in Vancouver over the past few years.
I agree with you guys. Like, a angry Pettersson is a very delightful Pettersson to watch. I hope we see more of that kind of attitude or swagger, if you will, emerge from Pettersson in year 2. But I was just like, damn, this kid has a set on him that
Gumption.
you don't see. Yes.
And I think when players play with that cockiness or attitude or FU attitude, whatever you want to say, they just play better,
But, I mean, he, more than anyone, backs it up, right?
Yeah. Let's move off of the world stage. Anyone else have anything on
Well, just
World
to say
Championship
how
players?
impressed I was by Finland.
Oh, God,
No NHL players on their roster.
they had-
Not full,
they
no
had-
full time.
I don't think that.
Right, they had like Henry Yokoharu.
Yeah, but no
as
full
well,
time.
but no one full time. Is it enough? By the way, and we'll talk about the draft stuff as well. Probably won't talk about it as much, but Capo Caco, this is now the third international tournament that he's been in, that he has shined in. He won the under 18s, won the under 19s, and now the World Championships. I think someone mentioned that it might be a first for anyone in their draft year to win all 3 of those tournaments.
It is, yeah. I think Pronman pointed that out.
Does it boost? I mean, you have been a huge Jack Hughes fan since day one, so maybe this is the best question to pose to you. But would you take Kako over Hughes?
No, I don't think so. Hughes hasn't done anything to lose it, right? And Kako's obviously risen.
Yeah.
And he's narrowed the gap greatly. I think it's much closer of a debate than it has been in the past, or with say McDavid and Eichel.
Yeah.
But I think Hughes is still the guy, but God, Kako is going to be a star.
Has it come to the point at least, though, and again, we'll skip the Hughes and Kako stuff when we talk about the Canucks at the draft, but has it come to the point where you won't blink if the Devils take Kako over Hughes? Or you wouldn't be as surprised?
I'd be surprised. It would still be a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think that.
For sure.
Because I think
on Hughes.
this definitely confirms that both of these players, I think, will have phenomenal NHL careers.
Yes.
I don't think this is anything against Hughes, but it's more the fact that we now have the ability to say, yes, Capo Caco is going to have a very good NHL career based on what we have seen from him in his draft year.
Exactly.
Getting back to Vancouver Canucks stuff, anyone else? Last call on World Championships. We're good? Okay. Eric Francis, writer at sportsnet.ca, suggesting that the Canucks might be wise to offer sheet Sam Bennett over the summer. Now, let me lay the land for you guys. Of course, everyone knows 18-year-old Sam Bennett.
18-year-old, 23-year-old Sam Bennett.
RFA, the Calgary Flames getting up there against the cap as well. And yet, for a 2014 top 5 pick, he still has a lot of potential. And in the Flames' first-round exit against the Colorado Avalanche this year, looked like one of the better players for the Flames. Definitely seems to be some untapped potential for Bennett. Bit of a throwback. He can get under a team's skin. Is there any desire first to throw an offer sheet at a Sam Bennett?
I mean, I don't hate the idea, but it's not like anywhere near a top priority to get a player like Sam Bennett, who sort of was tapped as this, young star, and he's not quite made up to that potential. Although, yeah, as you said, he actually was one of the few players that played well for Calgary in the playoffs. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily something that we should be prioritizing. Adam, what do you think?
Well, at what salary would be the big question?
Well, I haven't confirmed this. This is just what I read on Francis's column. Is that, by the way, Francis? Anyway, the compensation would be $1.82 million to $3.65 million would come at the cost of a second-round pick.
Would you do a second-round pick for Sam Bennett straight up? I don't know if I would. I mean, he's a good player for sure, and
has his stock fallen that much that he went from top 5 pick to a second not even worth a second round?
I mean, he probably is worth a second round pick. Let's be real, but it's a high second round pick, and you know me, I want the Canucks to be getting younger. And he is young, but it is a classic Benning move to get those guys who are, how old is he, 23 now?
The same age as Vertanen.
Yeah,
so
right.
Like 22, 23.
So there's not that much room to grow at this point. He's kind of, I'm not going to say he's maxed out, but we kind of know what kind of player he's going to be, right? So
I still think that there is some untapped potential, though, with Bennett.
Well, he's been given top 6 minutes and hasn't been able to hold them.
He's been kind of buried, though, as kind of that third-line center, though, in Calgary on some occasions.
Well, now he has, but before that,
buried for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's all fair.
I don't know. I don't love Sam Bennett. He's a fine player.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you rather offer sheet Sam Bennett, or would you rather try and get someone like Kasperi Kapanen, who's also an RFA, on an offer sheet?
I have a huge soft spot for Kapanen. Maybe Bennett puts up more numbers for the next few years, but I just think Kapanen's got a lot of potential still.
See, because these are two teams with very similar cap circumstances. The Leafs also sort of up against the cap. They've got to get Marner under contract going into next season. Kapanen could be that expendable person if it's not William Nylander. I mean,
you were talking about Bennett being buried. I think Kapanen's been buried by virtue of just more talent ahead of him, right? It was kind of like Josh Levo, where he just couldn't find a spot to crack the roster in the top 6, and Levo's a different conversation altogether. But I think he's just got that untapped potential that you were talking about with Bennett.
Just the issue of offer sheets in general too, and we mentioned this in Discord when it got brought up. But the Canucks themselves, they've got 2 high-profile guys that are going to be RFAs as well in the next 2 years with Pettersson and with Quinn Hughes. It's easy for us.
And
Besser this season.
Hasn't been re-signed.
And it's easy to say, just don't let them get to RFA status, but is it as easy as not letting them get to RFA status? In general, we have seen how offer sheets can be bad voodoo for a team. Look at the issue with the Canucks when they were under Mike Gillis. They offer sheeted David Backes, coincidentally playing in the Stanley Cup Final tonight, by the way. But they offer sheeted David Backes, I believe it was 3 years, $2.5 million for each season. And shortly after the Blues matched that offer sheet, the Blues offer sheeted Vancouver's Steve Bernier for the exact same contract. Tit for tat. I'm just saying offer sheets do happen, and teams do take that kind of personally because it's kind of the unwritten rule that you don't offer sheet another team's player.
They do, and which is why if you're going to, you could maybe work out a deal yourself, right? Say, we're just going to trade you a second-round pick for this player, whatever. I do think when it comes to star players like Pettersson or Hughes or whoever, Marner, nobody's going to offer sheet that because nobody's going to give up 4 first-round picks. Right? Mm-hmm. So I think you're pretty safe with those superstars.
Let's move on in the conversation here. Other random things. Actually, no, let's go with this one first. Trade rumors abound. Phil Kessel being bandied about. There is apparently a deal on the table that would send him from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the Minnesota Wild. Phil Kessel nixing that deal, saying not really convinced the Minnesota Wild are heading in the direction as a Stanley Cup contender. A quick question, would anyone here be interested in Phil Kessel?
No, it would cost too much, and he's not a part of the future.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I think it's unanimous here.
Yeah, he's not going to be a star player in the time scale that we have going.
It would be it'd be fun for now, but it would hurt us later kind of a deal.
Yeah, what are we going to do in the next couple of years?
Not getting any younger. We don't have the assets to pull off such a deal. I will say this, though. It sounds like the Minnesota Wild, for their part, were going to offer Jason Zucker back to the Pittsburgh Penguins in that deal. And it sounds like the Minnesota Wild have been making Jason Zucker available to pretty much every team that would be willing to listen, including, as Michael Russo reported, to the Vancouver Canucks for Brock Besser.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Let's play a hypothetical game. You be GM Paul Fenton, and I will be Jim Benning. Okay.
All right.
Okay. You play the role of Paul Fenton. Ring ring. Hello, this is Jim Benning.
Come on.
Hey, it's Paul Fenton. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good, Paul. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Just hoping to strike a trade with you, maybe.
Oh, really? Well, I'd be open for business. We're certainly listening to all offers, as I am the Vancouver Canucks general manager.
I know you're looking for some wingers. We've got a nice right winger, a 20-goal scorer, Jason Zucker, for you.
Well, I could sure use a guy like Jason Zucker because, you know what? We'd love to add some scoring punch. What are you thinking, Paul?
Well, we're looking for a good Minnesota kid. How about Brocky Besser?
Click, hang up, done. Why in the blue hell would the Vancouver Canucks even entertain such a deal?
They wouldn't.
It's madness.
Okay, so first let's start this again. Would you be interested in Jason Zucker?
Yes, of course.
Sure. But at the cost of Brock Besser, hell no.
No, 27-year-old 20-goal scorers don't come around all that often. But you're not giving up your second best player for him.
Yeah.
Did you like the hypothetical phone call?
I did.
Quite accurate.
You know what? I want to talk to you after the show. I got an idea for a segment now.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Bruin.
Honestly, I liked it because, hopefully that's the way it went because, sure, I'll enter the conversation about Zucker, but then Brock Besser, hell to the no.
He's on a pretty good contract. I think it's like 5 and a bit.
But has Jason
year.
Zucker proven that he's actually better than, let's say, a 25 goal, 25 assist player? He's a great second line player.
No, exactly. He's a very good top 6 player, but
we've seen the best out of Jason Zucker.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you're 27, that's roughly your peak, right? It's all downhill from here, more or less. Maybe a few more years of this kind of level. He scored 30-something a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's ever going to do that again. But that's the thing. You're not going to give up your best assets for Jason Zucker.
Moving on to other random things. Anyone see this? Artemi Panarin. He liked an Instagram comment that had one fan saying, come to Vancouver, again, verbatim, come to Vancouver, Panarin to Pettersson, he scores, something along those lines.
I did see that.
Does that mean Panarin's coming to Vancouver?
This is like when Gabrick bought a house in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the modern age, and especially in a playoff-less summer, we're going to jump on absolutely anything. But I would say it's probably him just being flattered by someone saying something nice about him.
I've heard these rumors, and again, these are unsubstantiated rumors because you haven't heard it from Panarin himself, that he prefers to play on a coastal team.
Well,
what?
I don't know
he likes
why.
the wind?
Like somewhere along the Pacific coast or along the East Coast.
Fair enough. Bigger markets.
But bigger markets, sure. But what do they have in common, like New York and Vancouver?
I'm just saying that's what I had read.
Okay.
I would...
Can if you're the Vancouver Canucks, then can you sell Artemi Panarin? Is there a case to sell Panarin?
Absolutely.
The Pettersson to Panarin.
You can sell Vancouver
sell
to Panarin, and you could sell Panarin to Vancouver both very easily.
I think so too. Like, it's quite evident the Canucks have this glaring gulf at the left wing position, where Artemi Panarin just so happens to play naturally on the left wing. Like, if Panarin wanted to be a successful, perennial 70-point guy, who better would it be than to play with Elias Pettersson? The Canucks have cap space to burn. That's probably the biggest selling point right there, is the Canucks could literally hand him a blank check, if they will. What would you give to sign Artemi Panarin? What is the max you would offer him?
Well, I don't really want to go over 10 for any player, and he could easily get 9 or 10. But if it's around 9, I'm fine with that.
I think we were both saying last episode when you weren't here, Adam, like that we were kind of supporting a go big or go home attitude.
Yeah, I did listen to that, and I'm with you. You go big, and you don't need... Maybe you have one backup plan, but that's it.
Yeah,
you know?
Maybe. I honestly, I'm interested in a few big players.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, maybe Panarin's your big fish, but then you also want somebody else really badly, and if that doesn't work because Panarin will cost too much money, whatever, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't sign someone for the sake of signing a winger, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Do you give Panarin a contract that has the letters NMC in it?
Well, I think so, because if you're signing him, you're not trying to get rid of him in the expansion draft anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah, and...
But is the expansion the issue, or the fact that he's
might persuade
27, possibly signing a 7-year deal, the issue as well?
Yeah, that's fair.
Because by the time he's 34, chances are he's not producing at the clip that he is today.
Right, but you see these guys get moved one way or another anyway, so...
Anyway, again, I think it just affirms the go big or go home message that we've said. You put in the call for a guy like Artemi Panarin, and you kind of sell him as hard as you can, and if you go down swinging, then you go down swinging on Panarin. I would love to see him come to Vancouver. You know who's also coming to Vancouver? Erik Karlsson. He wrote a goodbye post on Twitter. Are you more gung-ho for Panarin or Karlsson?
I think Panarin.
I think so too, and I've changed my tune on that.
Position, yes. I mean, Lord knows we need defensemen, but
we do.
An elite winger who stays healthy, from what I know of him at least. I could be wrong there. That's just so much value to this team right now.
Yeah, that is
right?
If we are to make any digs at Karlsson.
If you asked me a couple months ago, I would have told you Erik Karlsson, and I think I went on record as saying Karlsson. But the fact that the San Jose Sharks got eliminated, and one of the things Pete DeBoer said about Karlsson is that he wasn't healthy, like 100% healthy, for pretty much 90% of the year.
Yeah.
That does scare me a little bit. And we're starting to see a bit more of an injury history with Erik Karlsson that we have not seen in previous years.
And we can't afford to rest our defense on another
injury-prone blue liner. And if I'm investing possibly $10 million of cap space every year in one player, I better be damn convinced that guy is going to play close to 82 games in a season. And you got one player who's been a 70-point guy in almost every season he's played in the NHL, and then you got another who's been breaking down for the better part of the last 2 or 3 years. Which one are you going to pick? And unfortunately, as someone who was saying Erik Karlsson over Artemi Panarin, I now think I'm switching tunes on that as well.
Yeah, Karlsson has played less games in the previous season in the past 4 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And he's older.
Regretfully, anyway. We talked a little bit about weaponizing cap space, by the way. Would you take David Clarkson's contract on from the Las Vegas Golden Knights? That's been bandied about a little bit in Discord.
In exchange for what?
Well, let's put it this way. The Las Vegas Golden Knights are, I believe, over the salary cap, and they still have William Karlsson to sign to a contract. He's an RFA. And Karlsson, despite a down year, he's still going to get, let's say, north of $6 million a year. The Vegas Golden Knights are paying David Clarkson $5.1 million not to play for them right now. He is on the LTIR. And you have to be under that cap by the start of this season. If the Vegas Golden Knights offered to you, Adam, David Clarkson's $5.1 million for one more year, let me stress that, one more year of David Clarkson, and expendable, if you will, right side, right-handed defenseman Colin Miller for $3.8 million for the next 3 years, or 2 years, I should say, and a draft pick for pretty much nothing, Alex Biega, if you want to trade back another spare parts defenseman that's making less than $1 million, would you do that deal?
Which draft pick? Because, $8 million or $9 million is a lot.
It's a lot, but again, Clarkson's contract is for one more year, and Miller is definitely better than Alex Biega.
That's true.
And the Canucks have a lot of salary cap space to burn.
That's true. For a first?
Let's say a second.
I don't know about a second.
I would still probably
This is hard bargaining right here.
Yeah, we'll have you on the negotiating team.
It's going to be a good one.
But in terms of weaponize, these are the kind of deals that the Vancouver Canucks and Jim Benning should be looking at making, because they are in a very fortuitous position as having a lot of salary cap space this offseason, and there are definitely some teams, like we've talked about the Calgary Flames, we've talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs, now the Vegas Golden Knights. There are definitely teams out there that are looking at their window of competing, and it is closing if they don't open up salary cap space in a hurry. The Vancouver Canucks can offer them relief.
If it was second in a prospect, now we're talking.
Jeez, penny pincher over here. Anyway, I think that there is potential for the Canucks to weaponize cap space. I am imploring Jim Benning to at least consider those possibilities. I don't know if he will, but I think that's worth mentioning. We'll take a break. We'll come back, talk about draft discussion next on the C4 podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
It's been a day since we got to talk about the NHL draft. Last episode didn't get to it too much. Ready to talk draft?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
So we talked about Hughes probably going number 1, Kakko going number 2. The interesting discussion starts at number 3. The Chicago Blackhawks lucking into one of those 3 lottery spots. For me, it comes down to Bowen Byram or Alex Turcotte.
Yeah, you're right. And I think they go Turcotte.
I think so,
if
too.
I had to guess. Like, just, Taves or Logan Couture, whoever you want to call him, just a stud center to replace your aging center, who was your captain for the past decade plus and brought you 3 Stanley Cups. Like, it's just perfect.
If I'm not mistaken as well, Alex Turcotte's father, former NHLer Alfie Turcotte, has relationships or at least a connection to current GM Stan Bowman as well. So that
there you go.
Bit of family connection just reinforces that it could be the case. It's interesting that we say Turcotte at number 3, despite the fact Bowen Byram and the Vancouver Giants made it all the way to Game 7 of the WHL Championship. Byram looking fantastic in every single game of them.
But we're not saying Byram doesn't deserve to go 3. It's just for the reasons mentioned. Maybe Chicago seems like a good fit for Turcotte.
And does that leave the Colorado Avalanche then, you guys, possibly just taking whoever falls between those 2 players?
Quite possibly. God, that team just gets richer, hey? Like,
I know. It's brutal to think about it.
Cale Makar, Bowen Byram.
They have a really nice trade chip in the future with Tyson Barrie as well.
Yeah.
There's a friend of mine. He's a diehard Avalanche fan. Don't get me started. And he talks about how in the future Tyson Barrie could be that trade chip in, let's say, a 1-for-1 deal with Florida, who could be looking for a defenseman upgrade. Maybe Jonathan Huberdeau goes the other way in a kind of hockey trade.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Maybe not that exact deal, but one of those hockey trades, as they call them.
Let's go to number 5 then. LA, like, is it a Kirby Dach kind of Dylan Cousins kind of feel? Is it maybe Trevor Zegras? Is it someone else?
Do you think after those top 4, it's one of Cousins or Dach, like those big boys?
Okay, so I'll say this. The top 4 are almost locked for me.
I think so, too. Just the order of the third
it's
and fourth.
It's going to be either Hughes or Kakko at number 1, and it's going to be either Byram or Turcotte at 3, and whoever's left over gets taken by the team that's picking next.
Right.
At LA is where I think the draft starts, if you will, and they say that almost every year. The draft starts at 5 this year, I think. And this is where it gets kind of tough for me, but I could see LA going with someone who could replace Anze Kopitar down the future, and it could be Cousins or it could be Dach. Right?
Yeah. I think so, for sure.
But we should try and disagree a bit more, but unfortunately,
it's one of those ones that makes sense. You have, I don't think he's their captain, but anyway, this aging star for your team.
Isn't he?
Kopitar?
Yeah.
Captain.
He is?
Captain,
he wasn't for a long time.
It was Dustin Brown. Now
it was Dustin Brown.
Okay. Anyway, this aging star for your team, and in comes this opportunity to select a direct replacement for him. Why not, right?
I think it would be
protege.
I think it would be Dach, just based on how he seemed to rise up in the ranks and Cousins seemed to fall off just a little bit. Detroit Red Wings, they could go in any direction here. I have no idea what they're thinking. I mean, it could be Podkolzin. It could be whatever's left.
Could be anybody. Like
it really could.
Between 5 or 6 and 10, it's such a he could go
total
really
blender.
In any order.
Let me
I think Dach and Cousins go in the top 7 or 8 no matter what.
Yeah.
But the other names that will
I think it's like between 5 and 10, it's almost like two overlapping levels, right? That we think Dach and Cousins will probably go on the higher end, and Boldy, for example, will go on the lower end, but they could kind of go in the middle also.
We've seen over the last few weeks, and especially at the under-18s back in April, Cole Caulfield seems to be getting the most traction these days. Is anyone here going to blink if the Canucks want to take Caulfield at 10, Anna?
No, as I think he's probably the most recent riser of sorts. I'm definitely more invested in risers than fallers, and friend of the show, Chris at Canucks Conversation, he's actually been riding the Caulfield train hard, and he's kind of sold me a little bit more on him. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
How many goals did he score this year? Scored like 72.
72.
That's insane. Like, just shattered the record. And yeah, I'll always want a player like that. I don't care how small they are. If they can score like that, then you're going to find a place in the NHL.
Interesting. Of those teams picking in the top 10 that are not going to get a chance to take Bowen Byram, are there any of those teams that you could see jumping at the chance to take one of the defensemen, whether it be Victor Soderstrom, Philip Broberg, or Cam York? You look at maybe Anaheim. I'll just throw that name out there. Could Anaheim possibly take a defenseman?
Yeah, I think it's possible that teams will just panic once Byram goes and see that need to take the next best defenseman. I think it's a dangerous move to just take that next best defenseman with all the skill that's out there. But I could see one of the teams doing it.
Yeah, Matt, you and I talk prospects. Like, it's 95% of our conversations. And
we know what the other 5%
questionable
are.
Choice in hats.
Whatever. And I think you and I kind of have a top 10 or so. And the order fluctuates. But right after that 10 or 11 is Newhook, and then probably the defenseman, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not that far out of the top 10, whether it's a consensus or just our top 10. So, yeah, it just takes one team to really want a defenseman. They think, we really need a defenseman. This guy's going to be our guy, and it upsets the whole order. So I think it's totally possible.
I'll say this, and again, we'll revisit this conversation when we talk to Cam Robinson on Wednesday night, Adam. But is the best case scenario here Trevor Zegras?
That's the dream, I think. We have him. I think we both have him like 7 or so.
Yeah.
And yeah, any of those U.S. national team guys, I would be the
what
forwards.
Program.
It's unbelievable right now.
Like Zegras, Boldy, even Caulfield to an extent.
I'd be happy with any of them, but I think Zegras, of those 3 or 4, is the cream of the crop.
Yeah, Zegras, it goes Zegras, Boldy, Caulfield for me right now.
Yeah. And then you have York and Spencer
Yeah.
Knight, the goalie, but
Right.
we're not getting into those guys.
Krebs or Newhook?
You know what? I haven't paid enough attention to Newhook because I feel like he's been outside of most industry rankings.
Like, let's think
10,
Tyson Jost, and that seems to be the biggest comparable we see to Alex Newhook.
Well, that's pretty good for 10th overall.
I mean, it seems like Newhook has the most room to grow. He's off to Boston College next year. I think he's played his way into at least top 12 conversation. He's going to be a player, just like Krebs is going to be a player. But both don't seem to have that high-end potential that Caulfield or Boldy or Zegras seem to have.
Yeah, I agree with you.
If you had to pick between the two, would you pick Krebs or would you pick Newhook?
Oh, right now, probably Krebs.
Yeah, I think so,
But
too.
ask me tomorrow, it might be a different answer.
It could always be different, yeah. And again, we'll hopefully get some clarity from Cam Robinson in the weeks leading up to the draft here.
But I think that's part of what's exciting, and Cam's talked about it a lot on Twitter already, that he, has completely different lists to the next guy, and yeah, we don't know which way it's going to go, and that's pretty cool.
Do you think that the Vancouver Canucks are as deep at center as people say they are? Or deep at defense as people say they are? Let's put it that way.
No to both, I think.
Who's saying we're deep at defense?
Like, let's look at the pipeline. You got Hughes, you got Jet Wu, you have Levy. Is there a need to take another defenseman when you have 3 young-ish defensemen that are in your prospect ranks?
Yeah, you do. You like, there's such an important position. You build and build until you can't anymore.
I think, quoting Botchford, we need an army.
Yes.
And you can never have enough defensemen. You can never have enough centers, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't think there's the argument not to take a defenseman would be we have enough defensemen. That's definitely not the argument. The argument would be that there are better players available
Yes.
below
yeah,
Byram.
Fair enough. But the center question, Pedersen and Horvat obviously locked in, and people have been penciling in Gaudette as a future third-line center for a long time. He's still got a lot to prove. Like, Jared McCann just scored 20 goals, and they're the same age. So he's still got a long way to go. He's impressive, and I think he is going to be a player, but they're not set at center yet. They are at the top. Those guys are Canucks for the next decade, right?
Sure.
So that's fine, but you need depth. I mean, think about how important Manny Malhotra was to the Canucks in 2011, right? That center depth is invaluable. So
in other words, it doesn't matter that Matt Boldy is a left winger, and it doesn't matter that Alex Newhook is a center. If all things were being equal between the two, for instance, you might lean Newhook.
I think just because there's such there's no high-end wingers at all in the organization other than Besser, but nothing coming up the pipeline, right?
Right.
Because there is that incredible organizational need. If you do have two people rated the same, I think you go winger.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should influence your decision that much.
Yep, fair enough.
Because I think when you're drafting in the top 10, you're hoping for a high-end player, not for a third-line player.
That's going to do it for us here on the C4 podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Coming up right now in about 2 minutes' time, we're going to record Off the Rails between the three of us, available only for our Patreon subscribers. And it's a really cool topic. And it's probably been one of the most divisive topics here in the city of Vancouver. Are you on the Toronto Raptors bandwagon? I don't know about you guys. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I have no idea if we'll be able to cram it all into 20 minutes. But it's an absolute barn burner, if you will, of a Off the Rails coming up next. Probably one of them. There will be swearing, I think.
Yeah.
Words will be exchanged.
Brace your ear holes.
So if you're a Patreon subscriber, we got that coming your way before you know it. So again, if you haven't checked us out, check us out on patreon.com/C4 podcast. The subscription levels start $1, $2, $5 a month. Any of those levels would be great. But you can only get access to that content when you are a Patreon subscriber. However, you can also get great content by joining us on Discord, Anna. You can check us out on the pinned tweet, if you will, on the C4 podcast.
The C4 podcast is our Twitter, and yeah, that remains the pinned tweet. I believe it's bit.ly/.
bit.ly/.
Oh no,
the C4 podcast. I don't know. No. This is one of the few times we need Chris back on the
just
show.
Go on our Twitter, the C4 podcast, and check out our pinned tweet.
Some last thoughts from you guys. Adam, we'll start with you since you're not leaning back in your chair like Adam is. But any last thoughts on the podcast here?
Reluctant, go Gloria, go Blues.
That's a great song.
Okay, is Gloria a Bruins song or a blues song?
No, it's a blues song.
Is it? Because Boston's really kind of taken over that lately, from my Twitter feed at least.
I think they might be making
an ironic
fun
thing?
of
No,
the
I
blues.
think Pete Blackburn kind of took it and ran with it.
Well,
it's definitely a blues thing.
It's definitely a blues song.
It is? Okay.
And I kind of like the origin story that the players were just out at a bar.
Yeah, they were out at a bar and they were playing the song, and it just got catchy because I think they pitched a shutout the next night or something like that, so they just kept playing
Yeah,
it.
and they were
also,
just
I don't want to cheer for Jordan Bennington, so go Bruins.
I don't want to cheer for him either, but...
Sacrilege. Well, you guys might not like this one, but the Bruins up 4-2 in the dying minute of that game, so it looks like the Bruins will take that 1-0
Blues
lead. I mean, it was 2-0 Blues at one point, so that was a classic trap game from the Bruins, if you will. So the Bruins looking like they're up in that one. Adam, last thoughts from you?
That kind of was mine, was go Bruins, but go Raptors.
Ticketmaster sucks. God, I tried to get draft tickets, and it was near impossible.
Yeah.
Gotta have the lucky touch.
I'll be done. We can talk.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Check us out, CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Find us on Twitter as well. All that said, we're out.
Thanks for listening to the C4 podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com.